The false portal partnership offer. Rick Prime's very first deception is also his most devastating. Imagine standing in your garage tinkering with inventions when another version of you appears out of thin air. He isn't hostile, he's smiling, casual, and brimming with promise. He tells you that life doesn't have to be ordinary anymore, that with portal technology, you can turn existence into a non-stop party across infinite realities. This isn't just an offer of knowledge, it's an invitation to immortality through freedom. And to a young Rick C-137, it sounds like temptation itself, like the serpent offering fruit in the garden. But Rick C-137 does something rare for his kind. He hesitates. He says no. He passes on the offer. And that single choice ignites the defining tragedy of the series. Because Rick Prime never intended to walk away peacefully. His whole friendly partnership was a ruse, bait to test his counterpart's willingness to abandon family for chaos. When C-137 refused, Prime left behind a hidden bomb, one that would obliterate Diane and Beth in an instant. This lie, the mask of camaraderie hiding pure malice, becomes the origin point of everything we know about Rick Sanchez. It's not just that his wife and daughter were murdered, it's that they were murdered by another Rick, by a man who looked like him, thought like him, and promised to share in his genius. The betrayal is almost mythological, echoing Cain and Abel, Loki's tricks, or the serpent who offers wisdom only to deliver ruin. From that moment, C-137's trajectory is sealed. He builds his own portal gun not as a celebration of discovery, but as a weapon, a tool forged in grief. He spends decades hunting the shadow of Rick Prime, chasing vengeance across infinite universes, but never finding closure. The false portal partnership wasn't just one lie, it was the first lie. The spark that set fire to Rick C-137's entire identity, and by extension, the entire story of Rick and Morty. If you're new here and this breakdown got you hooked, smash that subscribe button. We dive deep into the multiverse's darkest secrets every week. And tell me in the comments, did you see Prime's first deception coming, or were you as blindsided as Rick C-137? The gift of portal travel. If Rick Prime's deception of C-137 was personal, his next great lie was cosmic in scale. He repeated the same performance across the multiverse, appearing in the garages of countless Ricks with the same warm smile, the same promise. I'll share my secret. We can turn life into an endless party together. It sounded like a gift, a chance for each Rick to step into infinity without limits. But the gift was poisoned. When a counterpart accepted, Rick Prime bound them to his philosophy, an existence of detachment, cruelty, and nihilism. But when a Rick refused, that was when the mask slipped. Rick Prime's generosity was never real. He retaliated with violence, targeting the most vulnerable place he could strike, the family. Time and again, wives named Diane were slaughtered in retaliation, leaving each Rick broken in exactly the same way C-137 was. This pattern reveals something deeper about Prime. He wasn't simply recruiting allies, he was engineering despair. Each offer was less about spreading knowledge and more about manufacturing trauma. He wanted every Rick to mirror his own emptiness, to be hollowed out by loss until vengeance and bitterness became their only driving force. The fan community captured this perfectly, describing Prime as a cosmic incel who couldn't handle rejection. When Ricks chose family over his philosophy, he turned grief into genocide. The consequences were enormous. When enough Ricks realized they'd all been deceived by the same figure, they did the unthinkable. They joined forces. Out of shared pain and fury rose the Citadel, a city of Ricks, and the council that governed it. Ironically, Rick Prime's greatest legacy wasn't the destruction he left behind, but the unity he inspired against himself. The so-called gift of portal travel was never meant to uplift anyone. It was a trap dressed as a treasure, a lie so corrosive that it changed the very structure of the multiverse. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our deep dives. And if you missed our Rick and Morty 12 most shocking revelations from last week, it perfectly sets up how these Prime lies connect to the bigger picture. Your support literally helps us create these detailed breakdowns that no one else is doing. The booby-trapped space lair. When the Citadel collapsed, it looked like Rick Prime's empire of lies had finally run out of room to hide. For the first time in decades, Rick C-137 was close, too close for comfort. He tracked Prime to a hidden space station lair, the kind of place that might finally hold answers, closure, and justice. But what he found was another mask, another performance. As the door slid open, there was Rick Prime, not in the flesh, but in flickering light. a hologram pre-recorded smirking with the same venomous charm as always. It wasn't a conversation, it was a taunt. The message was clear. You'll never catch me. You'll never even get close. The lair itself was the real trap. Prime had rigged it with killbots, security systems, and even a decoy clone preserved in a glass tube, like a trophy meant to bait his pursuer into a blind attack. Every detail of the setup was designed to waste C-137's time, to lure him into a violent frenzy that would get him killed. Even in absence, Prime controlled the battlefield, forcing Rick into the role of a frustrated pawn. Fans recognized this tactic immediately. Prime was keeping Rick chasing shadows, always one step ahead through pure deception. The near miss is important. Rick C-137 nearly took the bait. Fueled by rage, he was ready to tear the place apart. But it was Morty, just a kid compared to these titans, who recognized the futility. Morty pulled Rick back, convincing him to abandon vengeance, if only for a moment. Meanwhile, Prime was already gone. The entire lair was nothing but a smokescreen, a stage set for one act, to buy him time. The lair wasn't just booby-trapped with machines, it was booby-trapped with hope, the hope that the chase might finally end. And that's the most dangerous bait of all. Share this video if you think your friends are missing the genius of Rick Prime's psychological warfare, and drop a comment. Which of Prime's traps would you have fallen for? The scattered decoy Ricks. If the hologram trap proved Rick Prime could mislead his pursuers with smoke and mirrors, his next deception scaled that idea into a multiversal labyrinth. Prime didn't just hide, he multiplied. Across countless realities, he seeded decoy versions of himself, clones, lookalikes, and variants so convincing that even other Ricks couldn't tell the difference. As fans observed, Prime was hiding in plain sight by flooding the multiverse with endless copies of himself. For Rick C-137, this was psychological warfare. Every time he thought he'd cornered his nemesis, the curtain would fall to reveal another imposter, another Rick Prime captured, interrogated, or destroyed, only to vanish into nothing more than a puppet. The genius of the scheme wasn't in the decoys themselves, but in the way they exploited Rick's own arrogance. Ricks are supposed to be the smartest beings in the Central Finite Curve. To be fooled once is irritating. To be fooled 100 times is intolerable. But Prime weaponized that pride, turning every dead end into a deeper humiliation. By the end of Season 6, Morty becomes the first to fully grasp this truth. He realizes that most of the so-called victories were nothing but shadows cast by Prime's lies. This moment is pivotal because it drags Morty deeper into the feud, not just as collateral damage, but as an active participant in the hunt. The scattered decoys prove a chilling truth. Rick Prime doesn't need to win battles. He only needs to keep his enemies chasing phantoms. Every clone he left behind wasn't a failure to be caught. It was a success, another reminder that the real Prime was somewhere else, always laughing, always free. In the multiverse of Ricks, the cruelest lie isn't a weapon, it's a wild goose chase that never ends. If this analysis is blowing your mind, check out our video, The End of the Citadel, What Season 8 Really Means for Evil Morty, where we break down how Evil Morty saw through these same deceptions. Every view and subscription helps us dig deeper into the multiverse's mysteries. The Diane Resurrection Ruse. Some lies mislead, others distract. But Rick Prime's most sadistic deceptions are the ones that prey on grief. None illustrates this more cruelly than the Diane Resurrection Ruse. In Unmortricken, Rick Prime appears not in person but as a puppet master, broadcasting himself on screens to a group of captured Ricks. His promise is simple, almost biblical. Fight, survive, and the winner will be rewarded with what every Rick secretly craves. Diane, alive again. For men defined by intellect, this is the one temptation that bypasses reason. It speaks not to their minds, but to their wounds. Even the audience saw through this immediately. Fans, like Rick C-137 himself, were instantly skeptical that Prime would ever honor such a promise. The arena erupts into chaos. Dozens of Ricks, usually smug and calculating, suddenly turn feral. They kill each other with the desperation of men who believe salvation is within reach. Every laser blast, every betrayal, every scream is fueled by the false hope of reclaiming the woman they lost. In this grotesque theater, Rick Prime never lifts a finger. He lets their grief do the killing for him. But the prize is nothing but another mask. When the last survivor looks up, expecting a miracle, what descends from the ceiling is not Diane. It's a bomb, painted with her face, programmed with her voice, weaponized as both insult and execution. It is Diane reduced to shrapnel, love turned into a punchline. For Rick C137, the deception cuts especially deep. Yet here, something unexpected happens. He doesn't fall alone. Evil Morty, of all people, recognizes the lie for what it is. Side by side, the two most dangerous outcasts join forces to dismantle the Diane bomb before it detonates. In this moment, Prime's cruelty backfires. His manipulation forges an alliance that otherwise would never have existed. The Diane resurrection ruse is not merely a deception. It's a demonstration that Rick Prime doesn't just kill people, he kills meaning. The community we're building here gets these complex narratives like nowhere else on YouTube. Subscribe and join the discussion. Your insights in the comments often inspire our next deep dives. What do you think drives Prime's need to weaponize grief itself? Erasing Diane from reality. Every lie Rick Prime told before was devastating, but this final deception redefined the very structure of the multiverse. Because sometimes the most dangerous lie isn't one spoken aloud, it's the one that erases the truth altogether. In Unmore-Tricken, we learn of the Omega device, a machine Prime bragged was too cool to have a name. Its purpose was terrifyingly simple. It could delete a person from existence in every dimension and rewrite the memories of everyone who had ever known them. No traces, no graves, no lingering echoes, just absence, stitched over with the illusion that nothing was missing. Prime didn't just invent this device, he used it. And his target was Diane Sanchez. This revelation explains one of the show's deepest mysteries, why Beth's mother is absent not just in C-137's reality, but across all of them. Prime didn't want a universe where Diane lived on happily with another Rick. He wanted a clean slate, one in which no Rick could ever find solace, no alternate Beth could grow up with her mother. The erasure was not a tactical move, it was psychological warfare on a multiversal scale. For Rick C-137, the consequences were soul-shattering. The bomb that killed Diane was trauma enough. But to later discover that Prime obliterated every possible version of her across infinity, denying him even the bittersweet comfort of finding her in another world, transformed grief into cosmic despair. This single act reshaped more than one man's life. It changed the multiverse. Every Rick was suddenly without a Diane, whether they realized it or not. The absence became universal, an invisible scar that bonded them in shared emptiness. The cruelty here is staggering. To kill is one thing, to erase is another. Killing leaves evidence, memory, something to mourn. Erasure leaves nothing, except confusion, loneliness, and the gnawing sense that something vital has slipped away. Rick Prime understood this, and he wielded it like a scalpel. When fans finally learned the truth, it reframed the entire saga of Rick and Morty. The community was in awe. They realized the writers had been planning this for years, noting that we'd never seen a single living Diane in any dimension throughout the entire series. Every lie led here, to a machine that could rewrite the multiverse's history and weaponize absence itself. Rick Prime's greatest lie wasn't in what he told, it was in what he made us forget. Before we wrap up, if you haven't seen our breakdown, Rick's heartbreaking final goodbye to Diane Explained and Analyzed, it connects perfectly to this Omega device revelation. And seriously, every subscription matters. We're a small team creating content that treats this show with the depth it deserves, and your support is what makes these videos possible. 6 lies. 6 deceptions that didn't just shape Rick C-137's life, but rewrote the entire DNA of the multiverse. From the false promise in a garage, to the scattering of decoys, to the ultimate erasure of Diane herself, Rick Prime's legacy is not genius, but manipulation. Every step of the way, he weaponized trust, grief, and even memory, proving that the most dangerous enemy isn't the one you fight. It's the one who controls the story you believe. And that's the heart of it. Rick Prime didn't just kill people. He killed meaning, leaving Rick C-137 and all of us to question what's real, what's false, and what's been stolen. If you've been following this journey, don't stop here. Subscribe, because the lies of Rick Prime are only one part of a larger saga. And speaking of larger sagas, our Rick and Morty Season 8 Explained, the post-Prime era changes everything, dives into what the multiverse looks like now that these lies have been exposed. In the multiverse, the story is never over. It just waits for you to look deeper.